We are on God's views on political news. Waiting for people to come into the room a little bit here. Bill is a little bit under the weather today, so he's not going to be on camera, but hopes to be in the discussion that we're having. Hopefully you'll see everything that we're doing here and come on into the discussion. All right. So everybody is finding their way into the discussion. I know there's been a lot in the news lately, a ton of news that we're seeing each and every day, and more keeps coming out, which is pretty amazing. Hi there, Beth. How are you? Good to see you. Beth, I was just letting people know that Bill is a little bit under the weather and he's going to try to join us in the chat today. So it's really unfortunate that we've been having some issues like that where, people get sick from time to time. It's just one of those things. Hopefully that people are seeing this on God's News on Political Views, and then you can. Thank you. We can have you, if you will, just share this with people who are coming in. And we can do that. We'll get started. So I do see that I'm on there. So hopefully Bill can find his way there, and we can get him on as well. Have you been watching the news and seeing, there's just so much going on in the news. It's just amazing. Hey, Bob. I'll have to check your post later, I guess, whatever you said. Please share and invite people here. They're probably looking for Bill and seeing me and not knowing that this is the correct show, because typically we do this together. So I'm going to go ahead and get started a little bit. And people that are coming in, please feel free to comment on anything that you may have any questions on or anything like that. I always do invite you to have questions. And we'll see. So it looks like there have been things on Facebook that you're running into, Bob, and encountering those. I wouldn't be surprised the things that we're going to be finding on Facebook because of all the things that we're seeing, and so much that is happening in the news as well. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Susan Rice. I know that many of you have heard in regards to what's happening with Susan Rice and the things that have been going on with her. A lot is seeming to, come out lately about what is happening and how the former administration seems to have been running something, I can't say this with 100% surety, but it looks almost like it looks like the worse than Watergate, really, when it comes right down to it. When you look and see some of the things that she's been accused of doing, now she has been accused of being the person that has unmasked those that were in the Trump administration and Trump himself and President Trump's family. And if you take a look at that, some of the things that we're finding out now, that she's gone further into the intel and has asked for that to be uncovered. This was during the Obama administration. And before, what's so interesting about her, I don't know if you remember, but she is the same person who, back during Benghazi, they put her out front to take the fall I call her the fall gal, really, because she came out and has at that time and said blame Benghazi was on an internet problem. That it was a video on the internet that caused Benghazi, and we all know that that wasn't true. But that's what she came out and that's what she said. And at the time when she did that, she was the ambassador to the UN, and she was in line for the Secretary of State position that Hillary Clinton eventually got. And Hillary beat her out in that because of the fact that there was just too much controversy surrounding what Susan Rice had said. So she took the fall for what was going on in the Obama administration, what Obama and Hillary looked like they were trying to cover up. And so we see her once again now coming out in the news where she supposedly got the information again under the Obama administration as part of the NSA, that when she was with the NSA, and she unmasked all these people. And, you might ask, well, why was the unmasking? Why was that happening? And a lot of that unmasking happened because of the fact that she was allowed to get access to all this information. And right before, I don't know if you remember this or not, but right before President Obama left office, he changed the law on who could see the information. And so in other words, all along we had been under Reagan, since Reagan, we had been taking this information, redacting names out of private citizens off of it, and then handing it over to other intelligence agencies so they could look at it. She is pretty crooked, Bob. It seems to be that, it's really coming out now, that she has had her hands in a lot of things. But the Obama administration, after the election on December the 15th, you can see now that Clapper signed off on this new way of sharing information, and so did Attorney General Loretta Lynch. She signed off on it, I think, right at the very first part of January. So they were taking this information and using it against the administration, and it's coming to light now that they were listening to conversations, finding out information, important information that was coming out about the president elect, who he was meeting with. They even had the information during the campaign. And so, again, you might ask yourself, well, why did we want this information leaked? Why would they want to have that happen? Well, obvious reasons, because they want to do things that would disrupt the Trump administration. The other thing, though, is that if you were looking to try to take down this president after you were no longer the president, how would you do that? Well, you need to make sure that information was leaking in order to do that. So I think that is a pretty good guess there, that's what they were doing, that they wanted this information to continue to leak, to hurt the president, to hurt President Trump, and to hurt other people within the group. And as we know, General Flynn was one of those people that they kind of took out. And you might say, well, why General Flynn? And General Flynn, I don't know, not too many people remember this, but General Flynn was one of those people that, he worked under Obama, right? So he was the person in charge under Obama, and he was the director of intelligence. And so he knew a lot of information. And because he did, he was able to understand that things would not have happened but for the fact that Obama didn't do what he was supposed to do. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you might recall that Obama was the one who I'm sending somebody a link to get here. So Obama was the one who decided that, we're going to go into Syria, we're going to take down the ISIS, and we're going to go in there and get the job done. He was telling the American people, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to, we're going to get in, we're going to get out. It seems like they always promise they're going to get in and they're going to get out, and that never, it never really happens. So he in 2014, he was saying that Obama did a horrible job, that Obama, because of what he did and how he handled Syria, a lot of people were killed, and a lot of extremist groups moved in to that area and just took over. And so when they did that and they took over, it made the problem worse. And we're finding out this was something that I don't know if anybody's familiar with Lee Stranahan, but Lee Stranahan was a investigative reporter for Breitbart. And he discovered that when we were bringing those people into Syria, and we were arming the people who were, the rebels, the ones who wanted to also get Assad out, we're finding out that those people were in fact killing Christians. So, you don't want this type of information to come out. Well, so Obama at the time in 2014, after Lieutenant General at the time, Flynn, came out and made those statements against Obama, Obama quickly contradicted Flynn and said, ISIS is just a JV team. Nothing to worry about. Not a problem. We're going to take care of it. You're making a big deal out of this. So he contradicted Flynn. And I see Obama as somebody who, if you betray him, if you betray his trust and turn against him, say anything against him, he's going to come back after you. And essentially, I think that's what happened. I think that's a piece of this puzzle. And I have an article up on my website at susanknowles.com in regards to putting the pieces of the puzzle together when it concerns Susan Rice and why perhaps some of these things occurred. So with Flynn gone, now one of the things about Flynn, he was not a globalist. He was more of a person who just was trying to do, in some regards, the right thing. And I don't know about his Russian dealings. We haven't proven that he did any wrongdoing, but that's something that the narrative, is being pushed right now, that he did wrongdoing. They just totally want to take Flynn down. If they knew too that if they took Flynn down, got him out of the picture, what can he do? Then everything that is coming out now, they can say, well, Flynn's a liar. He doesn't know. Look at what he did in Russia. He didn't talk about that. He can't be trusted. So you go in and you attack somebody's credibility, and that's how you essentially take them down and get them out of the way. Now, it's my understanding that McMaster's, the one that replaced Flynn, is actually a globalist. So he's more in tune with what, if you believe in the whole deep state issue that the Obama administration is continuing to take down Trump. And listen, there's been no reason not to believe that. They've been very vocal about the fact that they want to get rid of Trump, that they want to take him out of this administration, that they want to impeach him if they can, because they want to remain in control. Who is they? Who are they? They are the people on the left, the progressives. And I would venture so much as to say they're more communist. We sometimes say progressives, but what we should really be saying is we should be calling them what they are, and those are communists. Now, what is the communist ideology? In general, the communist ideology is to break up the family. It's anti-God. And it is, maintaining control as elites in the world, taking over, making this a one world order. The Revelation talks about that, where you're going to have people who are coming in and trying to make this, about that. Progressive equal communist equal dirtbags. That's what Bob is saying. Bob, essentially, yes. Anything that, let's say, Americans typically believe in, anything that has been what we were raised on, being raised to know God and being raised on the word of the Bible, they are against it. And you can't stand communism. I think no one can, because it's so anti everything that most Americans believe in. And once again, it's really anti-God. So if you're looking at trying to have this new order, ushering in someday, as according to Revelation, when the Antichrist comes in and all that, I mean, this is setting things certainly in motion for doing that. And the fact, that Obama basically has stayed in Washington, D.C. He says he's doing it for his children. He's moved about 2 blocks away, which is, pretty amazing. Most of the former presidents leave. They leave Washington and they leave that type of life. Right now, I guess he's in Tahiti, on another vacation, which is just great. I say the longer he stays out of Washington, the better. But is he staying out of Washington because he wants to stay out of the limelight? And the limelight right now is not looking so good. With the things that are coming out about Susan Rice, why would you want to be in the United States? Why would you want to be here and being involved in that? Now, I know other people like Rand Paul have come out and said, we really need to question Susan Rice about this, because there may be some things that she did illegally. She has said in the past that she had nothing to do with this. However, the things that when she was saying those things, they were not under oath. So you can't get her for perjury, but you certainly could if you brought her in and you questioned her in front of Congress. That would be a different story. My question is she going to be, I call her the fall gal, right? You have fall guys and you have fall gals, right? Is she going to be the fall gal again for the former administration? Is that going to be her role again? Bob says our state capital last night voted to become a sanctuary city. Oh boy. That's not good. California's doing that as well. But with Susan Rice, and getting back to that, she wanted a position before. She didn't get it. She wanted to become Secretary of State. She didn't get that position. Was she promised something else? Was she promised that if you go and get this information for us about Donald Trump, about his administration, about his family, if you get all of that, then perhaps under a Hillary presidency, you can then become Secretary of State? Wouldn't that have been great, right? For her, motivation to do what she did, perhaps. And this former president, has a way of saying each and every time, well, I didn't know about that. I didn't know that happened. I learned about it the same time that you did. And you remember, he always talked about, I saw that on TV at the same time you did. So I didn't know anything. I'm not guilty of anything. And I think that's one way that he has gotten out of being held responsible for anything. And are people going to continue to protect him? If Bill were here, I would be asking Bill, where in the Bible did we have this before? Where the people that were lying, the people who were deceiving others, where is that in the Bible about that happening? I can't quote you scripture, but that happened. And that there, in times like this where we have to be in the end times, and I don't think there's any discrepancy with that or any disagreement with that. That people are, what was good is going to be evil, and what is evil is going to be good. And people are going to start doing that, where they start helping other people, and they're already doing that. They help other people deceive others. And there are so many people who believe what they're told by the government, by the former government as well. Bob's saying he doesn't know how people can sleep at night. Obviously, Bob, I don't think that they follow a Christian path. It certainly doesn't seem to be anything that they have a conscience about, that it doesn't hurt their conscience. And Donnie says he agrees with that. It is hard to believe, but if you're not following God, if you're not following the Holy Spirit, you don't have that same understanding, that of right and wrong, of principle, that you should do things the right way. You don't have that same thing. So you can sleep at night because you don't believe in the afterlife. You don't believe that there is a God. That if you're a communist, most communists do not believe in God, and they certainly don't believe in Christianity. So why would it bother you? Evil is evil, and if you have an evil heart, and that's going to move this camera over. Sorry about that. And if that's the way you feel, then of course you're not going to believe that. Yeah. Donnie says that he understands that. Yes. Yeah. And so I think that's what we're seeing. And I think we're seeing people who believed in the agenda, who believed in the cause of the former president. If this is all true, this is all, in certain parts supposition, because I think what's going to happen is you're going to have, people that come out and say, I never told Susan Rice to do that. She did that on her own. And again, you have to, almost all of us here I think would agree that Susan Rice didn't do this on her own. She didn't just go in there and decide all on her own, I'm going to try to take down the Trump administration. She didn't decide that. You have to know that when you're looking for who is going to be culpable here, there are going to be many people that you're going to have to say, they were involved in this. That's all there is to it. And whether we will, as a nation, decide to take this on, I don't know. Because right now, a lot of times the Republicans just say, you know what, we've got other things to do, really more important stuff. Let's just move on. And, for example, Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, we just moved on. And we shouldn't move on. We need to right the wrongs. We need to bring people to justice. And I think that's what is kind of wrong, and why we're in the shape that we're in, meaning why the Republicans have gotten in this particular predicament. We have been more the people who say, hey, you know what, let's just move on. We've got work to do, and let's not bother with this. Let's not bother with the Clinton Foundation. Let's move on past the email servers. Let's just move on. Let's get our country going. And I agree. We need to get our country going, and we need to do that. But the problem is, when you do that, you reinforce bad behavior. You show people that if you break the law, we're not going to do anything about it. And so what's the incentive if you have no moral compass? What's the incentive not to just go ahead and break the law? It would make sense that if you have children and you're not, let's see, they're too worried about upsetting the left. Yeah, they are. They think that the American people are in agreement with them just allowing things to go. Yeah, instead of doing the right thing, right, Bob? But they think the American people, that's what the American people want. And when they think that, they really are out of touch with the American people. What most Americans that I know is, what we want justice. And we haven't seen justice in a very long time. We certainly didn't see a lot of justice taking place in the last 8 years. And we need to get back to the biblical principles. We need to get back to when people aren't doing the right thing, they need to be brought before the authorities, whatever the case may be, and be made to repent for their sins, in a biblical sense, but being brought to justice and being to pay for the crimes that they have committed. And when you don't do that, you tend to have a society that doesn't have, they're not following the laws, not following the rules, and they tend to do whatever they want to do. And again, as I was going to say a while ago, it's like when you have kids and you don't discipline them, when they don't have to follow rules, you can't expect them to do the right thing. And I know adults aren't children and they should do the right things on their own. But again, if you don't have this moral compass, if you're not somebody who follows Christianity and the morals of the Bible, then you're not necessarily going to have that moral compass. And I think, our society, we have to continue to remember this, our society was made on Judeo-Christian principles. That's who we are. And that's what we should continue to be. And we have to make sure that in this society that we continue that in our court system, in our executive office, and in Congress, because that's what it's all about. The Constitution, those type of principles, all were founded and based upon biblical principles. Now, I know the former president wanted us to believe that, this country was not based upon and founded upon biblical principles, but that's not true. It was founded upon Christianity, Judeo-Christian beliefs, and you can't change that. You can lie about it, you can not talk about it, but you can't change the factual information. And, Bob is saying that his city last night voted not to follow the rules. And Bob, that's a good point. And anybody else who wants to make comments, please feel free to comment. I should have said that. But when you have these cities and these states who want to be sanctuary states, sanctuary cities, they're not following the rules. They're taking people who are, illegally in this country for the first, and right there. I mean, that's the first law that has been broken. And secondly, they're taking people who are criminals and not allowing them to be processed through ICE and deported if necessary. And it's always amazing because you hear people say, well, gosh, I just don't want to separate the families. We can't do this with these poor illegal immigrants that are here. It makes no sense because once again, you're kind of justifying wrongdoing because they wouldn't be in the place that they're in had they not broken the law in the first place. And I think that's important to remember, whether that's coming into the country illegally or, more importantly, whether that is the fact that you have broken the law and committed another criminal act when you're in this country. So in effect, they have separated themselves from their families by the act that they have committed. Again, it's like, and I take it back to kids because in a lot of respects, that's what it's like. If you were a child who does wrongdoing, and let's say another child or an older, an adult turns them in to their parents, right? You have a lot of people who say, well, or the kid would say to you, gosh, if you hadn't told anybody, nobody would have known and I wouldn't have gotten in trouble. Right? So not looking at the fact that they're in trouble because of their own behaviors. And that's the same thing that we're seeing. I mean, it's terrible that we're seeing in our own government, people who are supposed to be adults who are acting like children and have that same mindset. Elaine, Bill is not feeling well today, unfortunately. He was going to try to come in and maybe give some comments here in the group, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to make it. So I wanted to at least come on and talk about some of the things in the news and give you some information that's going on. And hopefully we can get Bill back here and well again next week. And if it's something that during the week, if later on, if Bill and I could, do a show together, if he's feeling a little bit better, we'll try to get that posted for you. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. But, pray for us both. I'm telling you because I think that we are all under a spiritual attack. Bill and I are trying to bring you a show based upon what God is saying, what God's views are on what's happening in our world. And we've been unable sometimes to bring you these broadcast because of technical difficulties, illness, or whatever. So I'm working very hard. I have another show that I do that I'm on YouTube live every morning. So I'm trying to eventually get this show on YouTube because I think it's more stable over there. And we can hopefully have Bill and myself together on YouTube and, and maybe that'll work out better. So, but again, if we can get him back, I think he's been attempting to make some comments. I don't know if he's, you have to log in, I believe, Bill. Make sure you're logged into Facebook to make comments. Really, thank you, Elaine. I really appreciate it. Elaine is saying that her internet's acting up and she'll continue to pray. And it's like everybody's having difficulties and we're being censored so much as well that sometimes you just have to wonder, how much, while it is, I think, a spiritual battle, there are human beings that are involved in that spiritual battle and they're causing great difficulties. Periscope has been that way. Facebook has been that way a lot. The few videos I've seen, you guys do a great job and send a great way. Thank you, Donnie. And we'll continue to do that. We're not going to be shut down by people, who are in this spiritual battle trying to keep God's word out. We're not going to do that. So, continue to look for us and, we're going to make this somehow. I can tell you, I can guarantee you that because we're not going to give it up. But anyway, so getting back to a little bit, we're talking about Susan Rice. I think there's a lot more there that we need to watch and continue watching. I think the left is going to try to spin that again, off of her. the one thing that you can always be assured of when the Democrats are making a lot of noise, and we've seen a lot of noise about Donald Trump and Russia, Russian interference with the election over and over and over again. And nothing has come out of it. There's no proof of it. There's just been talk of it. And so when you see that happening, I think we've come to know in the world that we live in today, when you see that, when you see the Democrats, those on the left, the progressive left especially, they're distracting us from something. They're distracting us from the truth. You have to ask yourself, was all of this done to get the light off, if you will, off of Susan Rice and what she did? And not only just Susan Rice, of course, but the Obama administration and their what they did in helping that, in helping Susan Rice. Because again, I think there are very few people that would think and really fall for the fact that Susan Rice did this on her own. Yeah, communists are good at that, Bob. They really are. They're very good at kind of following the Saul Alinsky rule book, and rules for radicals, and getting people to look over here when everything is happening over there. So I think that is one thing that you're just going to have to be cautious about and know when a big deal like that is happening. And you remember the big deal too, right? When Adam Schiff, who is the co-chairperson on the House committee, who's a Democrat, he wanted Nunes. All of a sudden it was like, oh, we need to get Nunes off of here. Nunes went over to the White House. He didn't come over and tell us first. So we need to get Nunes to recuse himself. In other words, we need to silence Nunes. Nunes already knew that it was Susan Rice. That's why he went to the White House. And once he went to the White House, he knew that Susan Rice had done the unmasking. So they wanted to get him out of the picture. They wanted to make sure that he couldn't say anything and he couldn't do anything. And it didn't work. Thank goodness it didn't work. Nunes stayed strong and said, there's no reason I didn't violate any ethics committee. And they even tried to do that. They tried to say, well, ethically, you did something wrong and you should recuse yourself. And they want the ethics committee to look into it. He didn't do anything wrong. In fact, for me, it sent out a message saying that he didn't trust his committee, that he believed that his committee would not take that information and do the right thing. I mean, that's the message that it sent to me. And that's why he didn't go back and talk to them about it. He went and talked to the White House about the information he had found. And maybe that should have given all of us a clue to think at that time that it was a Democrat who did it, because he didn't want to reveal that information about another Democrat to the Democrats, right? So it makes sense now. We didn't know it before, but it absolutely makes sense now. And I think that's exactly what was happening. So, just continue to know that there's going to be a lot more that comes down the pike. Bob is saying that Democrats worried about ethics at Rich. Yeah, and especially some of these people. I mean, when you look at the game playing that's going on right now, it's so unfortunate. I mean, you have a judge, Judge Gorsuch, who is an exemplary judge, who has been somebody that was, when he was voted in as a judge before, it was a bipartisan group that said, we love this guy. He's great. We should vote him in. And that's exactly what they did. He had the highest rating from the American Bar Association. There's nothing wrong with this guy. He had one case that people didn't like. They didn't like the outcome. And it was a case against, I believe, an autistic child. But what it was not what they said it was. It wasn't like, oh, he didn't like the child with autism. It was something to do with the school and how this, providing stuff at school and how it was brought. It's something like that. It was more of a technical type issue of how the school had handled it. It really had nothing to do with the child. And yet the Democrats would have you believe he just doesn't like children with autism. Nothing to do with it. And, watching the Senate decide whether or not they were going to send this vote on up, it was horrible to watch. I mean, the Democrats just absolutely, when they came around, you want to vote for this guy? No. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't care. It's their agenda that they're carrying out. And that's all they want to do is just carry forward their agenda. And they're going to do that. I mean, they want to do it now where they filibuster this great guy, and not vote for him because they want to delegitimize him like they tried with Donald Trump as a president. And they want to say, well, he wasn't confirmed. You did the nuclear option and that's how he got in. Otherwise he wouldn't have gotten in. And instead of saying, well, he wouldn't have gotten in if this game playing for the Democrats wasn't occurring, he would have gotten in. That will never be mentioned. It will never be spun that way. It will always be, we didn't want the guy. We didn't think he was qualified, but you Republicans, you went in and got him in with the nuclear option. Totally unfair assessment. Nothing shocking. We should all realize that that's what we hear these days. It's that type of thing. For you who are joining, Bill is sick today. He's been trying to do some comments and hasn't been able to come in and do comments for whatever reason. I'm telling you, there's a spiritual warfare going on. I'm asking all of you just to please pray for us. What can I say? So let's see. Yes. Yeah, it is like a group of 5-year-olds stomping their feet, unfortunately, Bob. And instead of, again, for the American public, they should be looking at that going, my gosh, this is such childish behavior. I don't know what the American public is thinking right now, because there are a lot of people, that don't watch the news, that aren't up on politics. They only see what you want them to see. Gloria Jean, the nuclear option means that if you're not getting the correct number of votes that you need in order to vote someone in, that means that the Republicans have to get 60 votes, and then they can vote that person in, so they can confirm him. And the Democrats have already said they're not going to do it. So it's going to be left to the Republicans to actually vote him in. They're just going to say, you know what? We're going to take that nuclear, yes, it's okay. Autocorrect always gets me too, Gloria Jean. But they can just say, we're going to bypass the Democrats and we're going to go and vote him in ourselves using this nuclear option. Now, some people may say, well, that's not good. You should just let it go the way it is. Trust me, if the Democrats had the ability to do that, they would do that. And so this is nothing new. So, you're probably going to see that pretty much for, I would say, a lot of the people in the Trump administration. They're dragging their feet. They do not want Trump to succeed. They do not want him to have an administration that is a functioning administration. If you look at the Obama administration, pretty much everybody was confirmed within 3 weeks. So President Trump has been in since January. Quite a long time to be going without a full administration. And there are a lot of people left to go. So I think what the Trump administration needs to do is they really need to just go in, clean out all of those people that were left over from the Obama administration, and then just start bringing in their own people. And if they have to do it with their own votes and getting them in with the nuclear option, whatever, go for it. Because I think the American people, in the beginning, it's going to be spun that this is something wrong, this is something unusual. But I think you have to also realize that in each new administration that comes in, typically everyone is asked to leave. It's not unusual. And I think they started that right away with President Trump. Oh, why is he trying to get rid of people? That one U.S. Attorney General that was asked to leave, and he tried to make a big deal out of it going on TV. Why are you asking everyone to leave? Yes, Gloria, I was just talking about that. There is a profound dark against light, spiritual pause. It's a spiritual warfare that we have going on. It really is. But the American public, again, a lot of people aren't watching the news. They don't sit and watch the news every day. They don't know who's telling them the truth. They want to believe their government, but they've been told by the former government that this new president isn't somebody that they should trust, that he needs to be impeached, that he lied about Russia, that he lied about everything. They have no proof, But with the Saul Alinsky rules for radicals, if the playbook basically says, say it, if you say it long enough, often enough, people will start to believe it. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to change the opinion of Americans by just spouting the same lie over and over. And I think that we as Christians, we have to make sure that we tell everybody what the truth is. And when people say, well, but Donald Trump, he colluded with Russia, and he has all those connections with Russia, and he's been working with Putin, then you need to remind them there's been absolutely no proof of that. None. And ask them, where is the proof? Just because people say it doesn't make it true. And we have to hold people, responsible for that. And we have to let them know that. Because again, when you say this often enough and you keep saying it, people are going to believe that it's true. And the media is not going to do anything to change people's minds. They're going to allow that lie to just fester because it works for them. It works for the former Obama administration. That's right, Bob. Not 1 ounce of proof. Not 1 ounce of proof. Nothing. And yet, it really gets me because the other day when it came out about Susan Rice, people should have been up in arms. This should have been earth-shattering information. And it wasn't. I mean, how much have you really heard about what she did? And the possibilities of all the illegalities, the felonies that she could have committed, the felonies when you leak information, sensitive information. Remember when they leaked that information about Flynn, he was a private citizen. He was not, the NSA director as he was with Trump for a very short period of time. He was a private citizen when they heard those conversations that he was having with the Russians. And by the way, nothing illegal about those conversations that he had. It is worse. I think it's worse than Watergate, Bob, because of the fact that, in Watergate, they didn't have the sophisticated technology that we have today. They're getting more information. They got more information under the Obama administration that they did under Watergate. And Watergate was simply just about the campaign. And I say simply just about the campaign, which was egregious enough and wrong. But you're talking about, during the campaign and after Donald Trump has become president, that they were still gathering some information from what I understand. So you're talking about way more violations of, possibly happening than ever before. So again, the question is, are we going to go after these people or are we just going to let them go? Are we just going to say, well, you know what? We need to move on. We need to move on. And yeah, they did this and it would take too long to try to prove that, I don't know. I know that already Rand Paul is calling for, Susan Rice to be brought before a hearing. And I think she should be. And she's probably going to be like Lois Lerner. She's going to not recuse herself, but plead the fifth. And she's not going to say anything. And, but we have a different president. We have a different U.S. Attorney General's office than we did under Obama. And I think that you're going to see if they do move forward, it's going to be different than it was before. And some people aren't going to like, those people that may have been accused of wrongdoing aren't going to like what happened. Yeah, that's right, Bob. She's going to plead the fifth. I mean, why wouldn't you? If you were in her position, you would. No wonder then have all the blackmailability, like those who vote against their conscience. Yeah. You can see, Gloria Jean, that all the things that happen and why people do what they do. I mean, if you lived under a complete protection, which is, I see it as the Obama administration for the past 8 years, these people could do a lot of, alleged wrongdoing and they knew nothing was going to happen. They had the president on their side. They had, Loretta Lynch, who made the stop on the tarmac with Bill Clinton, was probably on their side. I'm still not sure about James Comey. I think that James Comey, there's a connection with him. I had a guest on one of my other shows, Jerome Corsi, who wrote a book about the Clinton Foundation. And he named names. He was not afraid to name names. And he talked about James Comey's connection to the Clinton Foundation and giving donations. So, you have Comey in there doing a lot of things, and you're thinking, now here's a guy that should recuse himself because he's got these connections. And yes, maybe, people are thinking, well, he redeemed himself. Look at what he did, with Clinton during the election. He came out with that information. Did he do that to protect Clinton, or did he do that to protect himself? That's the question. And Bob is talking about now the I don't know if everybody heard this, but this morning there was a news came on. I think a lot of people have died, unfortunately. In Syria, they were using chemical weapons to go after the rebels, and these are the people that want to take Assad out. Now, early reports were blaming Assad for the use of the chemical weapons that killed all these people, and it killed children as well. And now they're saying maybe it was the Russians. I mean, that's one of the things that Bill and I usually talk about too. You have to really keep your eye on the Middle East. You have to know what's going on over there, because when you're doing that, you can see how much that we are in the end times, how much is actually going on that brings us closer each and every day. Now, I think I've talked about this, I know, at least on my other shows, but when we were going into Iraq and they were saying that there's no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, the thing of it is that people are saying, well, the reason there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq that we found is because they were all moved to Damascus before we even got there. And as you know, when it talks about Isaiah 17 and the destruction of Damascus, when you're thinking about it, if that's true, if the weapons were moved there, what better way to destroy a city and make it a ruinous heap, as the Bible says, than to have weapons of mass destruction right there in Damascus. And from what I understand, it's like their underground tunnel or, wherever they keep those things like that. But I mean, you could see that somebody could just fly over, attack the place and blow them up. I mean, it would be so easy. Now, some people have said, well, would that be Israel? Would that be Russia? Who would be doing that? Who in the end times would be destroying Damascus? And we don't know that answer. The Bible doesn't give the answer of who will destroy it, only that it will be a ruinous heap. So I think that, we have to just to know what's going on. And this with Syria, if this is Syria being so bold again, because I think Assad's been accused of this before, of killing the people in Syria. And actually these people are just people who are against Syria. Doesn't mean they don't live there. But they want Assad out and they're fighting against that. I mean, if you're willing to kill your own people, what's going to happen? And we already know that a couple of weeks ago that Syria actually fired into Israel, which is something that they don't do. And the reason that they fired into Israel is that there was a convoy, if you will, trying to take weapons over to Hezbollah, and Israel found out about it and blew it up. And Syria wasn't appreciative of it, and they actually came back and fired into Israel. And Israel has since said, do that again, and we will destroy your weaponry. And they meant destroy it completely. So what does that mean? Does that mean that they would go in and fight them in Damascus, and maybe that would be the cause for the ruinous heap in Damascus? I don't know, but I think it's something certainly that we need to keep our eyes on, and we need to. And the reason I think that we need to watch it, because if you're like me, you're waiting for the return of God. You want God to come, right? So God told us that we would see signs of this for the believers. The believers would see signs, and they would know that his return was drawing near. So I think that we need to, continue to watch, see what's progressing over in Israel, and see that, that God and that his return is drawing closer. And I think that if you see the things that are going on in the United States itself, that we're drawing closer. And there's still, there have been times that we don't know why that the United States is not mentioned in Bible prophecy. Why is that? Where are we? Are we just refusing to help Israel? It doesn't seem that would be something that Donald Trump would do. So why are we out of the picture? And maybe there are scholars that would say, well, we really are there. It's just that it's written a different way, or we're mentioned a different way, or, I don't know. That'd be one question I would love to ask Bill, because I have heard Bible scholars argue it the other way. Well, we are there, but it's just, we're just not mentioned, something to that effect. But in any event, I know that now under this president, we would help Israel. I really do feel that way. Under the former president, no, we would not. We didn't even help our own people in Benghazi, which for me, I don't know about any of you in the room, how shameful that is, that we left our innocent men to die in Benghazi. And from all accounts, some people are saying, well, we couldn't have gotten there. But how many people were given a stand down order that were there? Was that true? Other people are saying we could have gotten there in time. I don't remember a time in our history that we have ever left our people to just be killed like that. We never do that. And Bill is texting me on my phone. Thank God he got to text somewhere. But he said that when I was asking that question about the United States, he was saying that perhaps at the time the U.S. is not in a position to help. And that could mean that, were we attacked? Did we have an EMP that attacked us? People do bring that up about EMPs all the time. Would we at the time be attacked and taken down by ISIS? There are terror cells in the United States that we seem to forget about. We allowed a lot of people to come through our borders. We've allowed a lot of refugees from Syria and other places to come through our borders. Does that mean that everybody who comes in is a criminal and, there to do us harm? No, it doesn't mean that. But the more people that you allow in, the people that you haven't properly vetted, and don't forget, the State Department said, this is the State Department under Obama admitted that they couldn't properly vet people, that they weren't properly vetted. So, and these were the people that were coming in from Central America and other people. And they shut them up very quickly on that. Of course, who wants to hear that, that the American people are at risk by people who aren't being vetted properly? And as you recall also, very few Christians, if at all, were allowed in from those countries. We were only allowing people who believed in Islam into this country. Now, does that, again, I'm not here to say that everybody who believes in Islam is a criminal that's going to hurt us, but we have had attacks here in the United States, San Bernardino, Orlando, and other places when we attacked the recruiting station at our military. So I think we would be naive to say that might not become an issue somewhere down the road. I mean, I think it's very possible and very likely that we're going to have more attacks. Maybe people are being more quiet now and looking to see what Donald Trump is going to do. Donald Trump is not somebody who is afraid to combat terrorism. And he is trying to do the right thing with his travel restrictions. He's been trying to do the right thing for us and trying not to allow people to come into this country, to stop them from coming in. I think we're down to 90 days now, so that we could try to properly vet these people. And yet we still have individual judges in individual states, Democratic run states, Hawaii being the last one, who wants to prevent this president from doing what he has the power under the Constitution and the power that was given him by Congress in the 1800s, in order to act as a president, to take care of this country, to not allow people in for any reason whatsoever. And yet we have the courts who are saying, hey, you know what? We know what's best for the United States over the president. We don't want to have the president to have this power. And they are saying, well, the only reason that he wants to do this is he doesn't like Muslims. It's against their religion. They're using they interpreted he said when he was a presidential candidate, instead of looking to see what he said as president. And I think what it's going to boil down to is, again, that they want this all to go to the Supreme Court. I think that you will see, if it does go to the Supreme Court, that they try to change that rule that's been in effect since the 1800s that gives him, as the president of the executive office, the ability to protect this country and to keep people out for any reason whatsoever. I think they're going to say that it goes against the First Amendment, the religious clause, based upon, what Donald Trump said. This shouldn't be something that's allowed. That's too much power for the president. Whatever the case may be, whatever they're going to try to bring up. They're going to fight that, and that's why they keep pushing it that way. It's odd that in Hawaii, this is and I say it's odd. I'm being kind of sarcastic there. It's not really odd. It's expected that this judge in Hawaii is a judge that was appointed by former President Obama, that has issued a temporary restraining order against the president. Not only did he issue a temporary restraining order, but he made that temporary restraining order indefinite, which means it's no longer temporary. So the court, you can see the court system sort of violating, in a way, their own rules about power to get what they want. And I don't have any way to verify any of this, but it was said that former President Obama was seen in Hawaii on the day that the temporary restraining order, and now indefinite restraining order, was issued by the judge in Hawaii. He is a very liberal judge, I can tell you that, from San Francisco. Typically, most judges from San Francisco are pretty liberal. So, it's going to be a matter to see what happens. I know that they're appealing that right now. They're appealing it to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I say Circus Court of Appeals, that's what we call it in California. It's the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is the proper name. They are appealing that now to see what happens. They have, they being Donald Trump and his administration, corrected everything the way that the Ninth Circuit said they needed to do before they put it in place and before Hawaii gave them that temporary restraining order. So I'm eager to see, is it going to be sent right back to the Ninth Circuit, and now they're going to say, okay, yeah, you did everything that we asked you to, but here's something new. Or, no, you didn't exactly do everything that we asked you to do. I will be surprised if they don't shoot it down, because they usually shoot everything down. After 9/11, there are statistics that prove Christian college enrollment from international students dropped severely, even causing school closure because they wouldn't allow Christians in. Yeah. And it's horrible, Gloria Jean, and to, again, to know that, as I was saying a little while ago, that in Syria, when Obama was saying we're going to go into Syria and we were arming the rebels to try to take out Assad. Those rebels now has been determined by Lee Stranahan, who is a former Breitbart reporter, investigative reporter, a guy that I pretty much trust his judgment on and his research that he does, has found that those people were killing Christians even while we were arming them. We were basically helping to arm them, and they were using our arms that we'd given them to kill Christians. Not a good thing. It doesn't bode well for the United States, I think, when you're talking about a blessing from God. So it'll be amazing to watch again what is happening, where we go from here, what's going to happen to the United States. I thank you all for being here today. I know we run out of time. Hopefully next week we're going to have Bill back. I'm going to be back with Bill, and we're just going to go through. Please pray for us again. I think there are a lot of spiritual battles going on, And we want to make sure that this broadcast continues to go out. We're trying to improve it every single day, because it's news that you as a Christian need to know, and that you can be a light for others and you can be a watchman for what's going on. I think it's very necessary. Again, if you will please share this with everyone, that will be great. And thank you again for being here. God bless you, and we'll see you again next week.